Write about what you can, make it really well written. The more personal, the more interesting it'll be. I think a lot of people think if I make it personal, I'm narrowing my audience, because of but no, you're actually making your audience specific. And that's what's so interesting, to get a glimpse in someone's life like that. You're listening to Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin. Hey everyone, welcome back to Screenwriters Need to Hear This, the podcast where we're branching out. We're talking about other things, not even that are also the screenwriters need to hear in other areas. What am I talking about, Phil? Phil, I don't know what I'm talking.
We're talking about a lot of things. I think you've got a breadth of knowledge, and I think this is a topic that, although it may not be directly related to screenwriting, even though it kind of is tangentially, I think it still applies to writers, which I think all of us are thinking about. Maybe not just TV, but we're thinking of other things.
So today we're talking about how do I sell the movie rights to my book? Because people ask me this question a lot on social media. And, everyone writes a book, wants to write a, and most people I ask, like, whoa, well, is your book who's publishing it? And so often it's self-published, which is okay, that's fine. But it seems like it'd be a very ego-driven question. They're like, they're asking, how do I sell my book as a movie so that I can become a screenwriter and I can make a lot of money? That's what they're asking. How do I make a lot of money the easy way or something? Mm-hmm. And obviously, like, no one really cares, like, what you want. If you want to sell something, you got to give the buyer what they want, which I've said over and over again. And so I think a better question is asking, what do studios look for when optioning the rights for a book? And that's a whole different question. And what they're looking at, that way you can give them what they want. If you ask the right question, you could give the studio what they want instead of saying, how do I sell you my book? And so what they're looking for, in my experience, is they're looking for a New York Times bestseller. They're looking for a well-written book with a built-in audience. They're looking for, for example, the show I just watched, Fleischman is in Trouble, right? That was based on a best-selling book. And so that's how it became a TV show. And that's how so many projects become movies, are based on books, but the books were hit books. They were best-selling books. They had a built-in audience because the studio knows that people are going to want to go see the movie when it comes out. They recognize the name of the book. They're going to want to see it, even if it gets ruined as a movie. They're like, oh, okay, I'll sample it at the very least. Same thing with a television show. It'll be turned into something else. Maybe it'll be better, maybe it'll be worse, but at least people will know about it. It'll be easy to market. And that's all it's about. It's about marketing. It's about money. And marketing is such a big battle. It's like, these studios invest a lot of money into a TV show, into a movie, and they're not looking for the best written they're not looking. If that were the case, it would be nonstop Shakespeare, because that's free and public. It's in the public domain. They can make all these. I think it must be the public domain. They can make Shakespeare over and over. There'd be the channel running nonstop Shakespeare. The guy wrote, I don't know, something like 30-something plays. Why not just do Shakespeare all the time? It couldn't be better written, because it's marketability. No one wants to watch Shakespeare, unfortunately. So it's what do they want to watch? So, and I think a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but okay, you're telling me now to write a New York Times bestseller. That's too hard. You're damn right it's hard. Did you think any of it was going to be easy? Yeah, for sure. But if you can make something that has a built-in audience, and it doesn't even have to be a bestseller, it could have a huge following on social media. But it has to be easy to market. So here's what you need, in my opinion. The book has to be well written, and it has to find its audience. Mm. And you don't have control over the second part, really. But you do have control of the first part. You can make it well written. And so the only thing you have control over, once again, is your writing, is how good your writing is. But people don't want to focus on that, even though that's the only thing they have control over. They'd rather focus on, how do I sell it? How do I make money? How do I get on the bestsellers list? I just focus on the only thing you have control over. We don't have control of the other stuff. And then a lot of people, of course, feel like they don't have time. And I'm inspired by the movie Made. I mean, it was a little bit while ago, but Stephanie Land wrote this movie Made, and she wrote about her life as a young single mother fleeing an abusive relationship, and she had to work as a maid, as a cleaning woman to get by. And so, that's not fair that she had to do that. That's not fair, but she turned it into gold. She turned her horrible experience into gold.
Mm.
And then I think a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, but she had an interesting life to write about. My life is boring. That's not fair. Like, okay, I don't know. It's not fair that she wasn't abused, that you weren't abused and she was. You know,
Right.
I don't think she saw it that way. And so, yeah, I mean, but that's why I say write about what you can, make it really well written. The more personal, the more interesting it'll be. I think a lot of people think if I make it personal, I'm narrowing my audience. You know, because of my. But no, you're making your audience specific, and that's what's so interesting to get a glimpse in someone's life like that. Um, and then some people, of course, say, "Well, I'm too busy to write a New York Times bestseller." Well, that's good. It's good that you're busy. You have something that means you probably have an interesting life that you can write about. If you're not busy, you're boring, you're not doing anything, you have nothing to write about. So make yourself busy, take notes, and then start writing about it. Open your mind to other opportunities and start writing about it. Put yourself as a fish out of water in whatever opportunity it is. Write about it because that's always interesting. Um, yeah, that's just my advice. That's my advice. And by the way, I've been involved in many projects where a studio says they'll buy the rights to the book and they'll seek writers to, hey, do you want to develop this into a TV show or a movie or whatever? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes no. But there are people in development, that we call it, and they're looking for books to option the rights to. That's their job. That's all they do. So you don't have to find them. They'll find you, and they find you if it has a big enough splash. If your book has made a splash, they'll come seeking you. So you don't have to raise your hand. They're looking for you.
Yeah. Immediately comes to mind The Martian, right? By Andy
Yeah, The
Weir,
Martian.
right? It was a
That
series
was
of blog
self-published.
posts. Series of blog posts he was just publishing on a regular cadence on his website. And it
Hmm.
generated enough attention because the storytelling was so good that it compiled it and put it out.
Well, he compiled it as his own book. He self-published, and then it became a hit, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But it had a huge following on the blog. Just people were looking forward to reading this thing, and then he put it out.
Well,
So
there's a guy who built something, and so everyone's asking for permission. How do I sell? How do I? And he wasn't asking for permission. He was just doing it. He put something good out there, and then people, like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. He put something great out there, and people came. Now they don't always come, but if it's great, you have a higher chance of people coming than if it's bad. I think we agree on that.
yeah, absolutely. I think you know, I think that like he was in negotiations on the contract, and it was like getting past. And Ridley Scott said he wanted to make the movie, and
Hmm.
so he was like, "Oh, he's like, well, I don't know if I can make it because I'm at work." He still had his job, and he'd sold the
Yeah,
rights to that because he was
that's so
still
funny.
grinding away, still writing,
Yeah.
still working on other stuff. But he also has like a whole series of like shorts, and I remember my friend Alvi, who is he's like a head of development at a pretty well known company out, production company out here in LA now. He did a short on an Andy Weir, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Andy, an Andy Weir short story that he made free to students to make without
Hmm.
any needing permission. And it was just stuff he'd had written prior to that,
And
right?
then some students made it.
And no, I was just saying, like he has a list of things, projects you
Oh.
can just go make without having to ask him for permission. And my buddy Alvi went and did this. He went and made
Mm.
a short based on one of these projects that he'd already written. But the point is, it wasn't the first thing he'd written. He'd written other things. That was the thing that hit. But he had, sharpened his axe, if you will, on other projects. He'd
Hmm.
gotten so good at the craft that that's the one that hit, and he became an overnight success. But he still had probably hundreds and thousands of hours of writing behind him, behind that book.
Right. Right. It's so interesting though when people, uh, they're trying to break down the door to Hollywood. They're trying to, how do I get through the door? And it's like, dude, there's no door, and you can open it yourself.
Mm.
I know this doesn't make sense, but you could just do whatever you want. Just make it, put it out there. And I know you don't feel like, well, I don't have that kind of money. You can shoot everything on a shoestring budget. You don't need to, raise a ton of money. Start small and then work your way up, like we're talking about. And so, yeah, I mean, write a book. That's a great way to do it. If you write a book and it's a bestseller, they'll turn it into a movie and they'll ruin your book, and that'll be
Yeah,
fine. You'll be
yeah.
happy.
Right. Well, a couple things that came up as you were talking about this, because the question is like, how do I sell the movie rights to my book?
Hmm.
And what you're saying is you need to have a good product that people want to buy. And this
Yeah.
sounds oddly similar to what you talk about when we talk about how do I sell my pilot, right?
Yeah,
Something's
it's the
so
same
good
thing.
you can't. It's not undeniable how good it is, and people will back up trucks full of money for you to take
Yeah.
it from you because they want it.
But it's interesting when people say like, how do I turn my book? And then you say, well, has anybody read your book? Yeah, 5 people bought my book. Well, what? Like, why would why would they want to turn it into a movie? Why would because you think there's no, I mean, you understand like there's only so much money that can go around and they're only going to make so many projects. They're going to choose the projects that are easiest to get eyeballs on. They're not looking for your, for a script to shoot. There's tons of scripts in Hollywood. They're
Right.
looking to make money.
Yeah. So you say that the one thing you have control over is the quality of your writing.
Yeah.
So let's say I write something amazing, and it truly is amazing,
Hmm.
and 5 people are like, "This is great," and I have no connections to Hollywood, and I start putting it out on TikTok, and it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
Was that worthless?
Of course not. It was it's an interesting exercise and growth. I mean, did you enjoy the process? If you didn't enjoy it, then you shouldn't be doing any of this. If you didn't enjoy the writing part, then forget about making money. You're not, what's the point? Uh, but and it's also, and not everything, of course, lends itself to being turned into a movie. If it's not written in a visual way with kind of that you can imagine with scenes, it's like there's great literature that is not would it's not you can't imagine how they would turn it into a movie. It's not easy. So
Yeah.
it's internal, and that doesn't mean it's not beautifully written, but it's also hard to how would you turn it into a movie?
Right.
And yeah. And by the way, if there's something which is a giant hit and they don't know how to turn it into the movie, but the name is worth something, they'll hire a writer and have to figure it out. I mean, take like even Maurice Sendek's Where the Wild Things Are, which I
Sure.
thought Spike Jones he directed it. Like I thought his adaptation, because the book is whatever 20 pages long. There's not much there. It's like it's a
Right.
children's book, so there's 18 lines. There's not a lot there. How do you turn that into an hour and a half movie? And so he really developed it. I thought he did a beautiful job with it. And so but that was sold because everyone knew the name. There was nothing in the book. There wasn't enough in the book to turn into a movie.
No, but that was a very successful children's book that I remember reading when I was young.
Yeah,
So, was
right. And
it
so it had a built-in audience. There's a ton of people who are
won
like, oh,
awards? People loved it.
yeah,
I find that this kind of leads to the question of how do you build an audience is kind of the question that comes from this, right? Because what you're saying is you can control the quality, you can't control the built-in audience.
yeah.
But my background as a marketer would dictate that that's not actually true anymore, that you can build an audience.
Yeah, I mean the world has changed. The social media has changed the game. It's changed the game so fast that I think publishers are struggling. Traditional publishers are struggling to stay relevant because you don't need them anymore. People
Yeah,
can do it on their own.
yeah,
All of this can be done. It's a great leveler, and for little money. Um, so again, and it's a similar thing with the publishing industry. It's like they're looking for projects to buy for books that they think they can sell, not necessarily books that are well written or whatever. It's like, can we make money from this? And it's a business. I understand that. Everyone should understand that. But people don't really need them anymore. That's the great thing about indie publishing and self publishing. There's so much resources out there, and you can make your own book for next to nothing, and you can figure out how to market. And there are people like you who have podcasts who talk about this, about marketing and how to get your stuff out there.
yeah. Okay, so what we know is we have to come up with a good idea. We have to be able to write and execute that good idea. That's what we've talked about that plenty ad nauseum on our podcast, right?
Yeah.
In the past, it's not the idea; it's the execution of the idea,
Yeah. You
and
don't even
there
need a
are
good, yeah, you need an okay idea. You don't even need a great idea. You just need a good idea.
good execution, great
Yeah.
execution, good idea.
Good
We'll do the
idea.
job.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got those. We know that there are plenty of resources online for marketing and to learn how to grow an audience online. There are
Mm-hmm.
podcasts, there's YouTube videos, there's courses you can take. The end result for this question is they want to sell the movie rights to their book. And what you're saying is that's a roundabout way of being a screenwriter. a
Yeah.
roundabout way of becoming a screenwriter. And I think that this question stems from maybe 10 years ago. The big push in Hollywood was IP, 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 IP. We don't want to
Hmm.
make anything unless it has IP behind it. Probably still largely the case if you look
I
at the
think
number of
so.
adaptations that are being made. I think you
Or
did that post.
remakes.
Yeah,
Remakes.
tons
They're
of
bringing back
remakes.
Frasier. Why do they bring back Frasier? Because it's easy to market. That's all.
Yeah, Phineas and Ferb just got 40 new episodes on
Oh wow.
Disney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's really like double lightning in the bottle, if you will, right? You want lightning to strike twice in a bottle this way. You not only want to become a screenwriter, but you want to sell a book to become the screenwriter of that book.
Maybe. Yeah.
And the odds are, if you write something that good, they may not even ask you to write your book. They would give it to a
Oh
right. You might get a pass as part of your
yeah.
deal, and that's like go away money. They'll pay you that, and then they're going to hire
Yeah.
Akiva Goldsman or someone else to go write your book.
Almost certainly. Or if it's a TV show, they'll team you up with a showrunner who knows how to turn, because it is a different skill set, who had to turn how to deliver the requirements of a television show to keep the audience coming back episode after episode. So they'll probably team you up. Uh, but yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, it's always just writing. You gotta write. The writing has to be good. Hey, it's Michael Jamin. If you like my videos and you want me to email them to you for free, join my watch list. Every Friday, I send out my top 3 videos. These are for writers, actors, creative types. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. I'm not going to spam you, and it's absolutely free. Just go to michaeljamin.com/watchlist.
And we've talked about how to do the good writing, right? Which is, even just one of our Q&A or Ask Me Any episodes, we talk about craft. It's how do you outline? What is story?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things every screenwriter, basic things screenwriters should know? We talked about a bunch of those things.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the lessons in your course on storytelling in screenwriting carry over to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think because story, at the end of the day, story is story. It doesn't matter whether you're putting words on the page or you're putting it on a big screen or a small screen. What difference does it make? It's still a story. A comedy is a funny story. A drama is a dramatic story. So, so yeah, I mean, it's all. And even as I was doing my personal book, Paper Orchestra, because I'm a TV writer, I think very visually. So as I was writing each story in it, I'm always thinking about what is the audience imagining? What do I want them to imagine? What do I want them to
Mm-hmm.
picture? And I don't make them picture more than necessary. Like if there's a scene in a room, I don't have to describe the wallpaper unless I think it's important that they know the wallpaper. If not, I can just put them in the room, give them an image. It's the air is stale and it's dimly lit, and I don't have to go overboard in describing things that they don't need to know. And then everything I write is about how do I really see things as a television show. And even after I did my show, my one man show, I had a Q&A afterwards, and people were like, "Are you going to turn this into a TV show?" I'm like, "I don't know, maybe, but that's not the goal." And I know if it does turn into a TV show, changes will have to be made, and I kind of don't want to compromise. But on the other hand, I wouldn't mind a big bag of money if I sold it. But I don't know. It's not even the intention. The intention was to do something, have a creative outlet to express myself in a way that I hadn't, which which is interesting because as a TV writer, I don't really get to do what I want to do. Very rarely I get to do what I want to do. I'm playing ball. I'm playing ball to get that paycheck. So this was an opportunity to just write something for me, and that's why I think it's some of my best work. But anyone can, at anyone at home, anyone listening, you can write. You can make. You don't have to. You write what you want to write. This is the wonderful opportunity to write your book the way you want it to be written, and make no compromises.
I know a lot of screenwriters who choose prose and storytelling in novel form or book form as an outlet for creative endeavor because
Yeah.
they're so mired in the structure and network notes and all that stuff that has to happen.
I was talking to my friend Christina. She actually she was a guest on one of these, of our podcasts here. And she knows, I'm not going to mention any names because this is all third hand, but she knew a very successful screenwriter who worked on these franchise movies, big franchise movies. And he was making a ton of money and he was miserable because, you're really boxed in. You're getting notes from 1,000 different directions because they're protective of this franchise characters. And, he made a lot of money, but he was miserable. It wasn't a fun experience, and he was golden handcuffs. He had a big
Mm.
Hollywood house, and it was golden handcuffs. That's all.
Yeah. Golden handcuffs for everybody listening are the handcuffs. It's the shackles that bind you, but they're made in gold, so you can't walk away from. You don't want to walk away from them.
Yeah, you've grown accustomed to the life. You have an expensive house now. Now you can't leave, and you're just looking at people like me making a fraction of the money, and you're like, and you're jealous
Yeah.
because I'm not miserable.
Mark Madsen is the author of the New York Times bestseller "The Subtle Art of Giving an F," and everything is F. And he's got a bunch of that. He had an ebook. I found him through like a random Audible giveaway for a free audiobook, and then I would
Hmm.
listen to his. I mean, this tangentially applies to this conversation, but I got this free Audible book that he put out. Then I went to his blog, subscribed. Then when his book came out, I bought every book he ever put out because this free piece of content was so
Hmm.
valuable to me. And there's an essay in there where he talks about how it's effectively a story to tell you that everyone is never satisfied with where they're at, right?
Yeah.
He says, you're on it's Rio de Janeiro, and the guy is there with his sister and her friend, wondering why can't I be over there with those guys playing volleyball instead of taking care of my little sister. And those
Hmm.
guys over there on volleyball are like, man, what would it be like to be that guy with those two cute girls?
Right.
Right. And then you go to the next one, and like everyone's wishing they were somewhere else doing something else with somebody else. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of appreciate where you're at with the process and enjoy
Hmm.
that part of the process.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned a couple of things when we are going through this. I was wondering what you meant by well written and a built in audience, and I was like, what does that mean? I wrote.
Yeah. I
I think you
remember.
addressed that. You said it's effectively it's a piece of intellectual property that has a following. There are people
Yeah.
who liked it enough that they bought it enough that they believe that they can hedge their bets. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, but I mean, honestly, and like I said, I think it's better if it's well written. But we know of plenty of movies that were not well written books, but were trashy enough to get a following and were turned into very successful books and movies. So it's not necessarily the
Okay,
quality of
like
the writing.
three franchises come to mind right now.
Yeah, we can all think of. We don't have to bash them, but yeah, there's plenty. I do think it's better if it's well written, obviously, but there's more to get out of it. But you know, it's really about marketing. It's about selling it. So if you have a book, so what? Unless they think they can make money off of it.
I think that means you have to go places you don't want to go. And you talk about the maid and Stephanie Land, right?
Yeah.
You said that it's not fair that she had this big success, and
Yeah.
it's also she might think it's not fair she had to go through all that abuse, right?
Yeah. It's not fair that she had an interesting life and worked as a maid and now gets to sell her TV rights and get or movie rights and become rich. That's not fair.
Right.
She wasn't saying that when she was ducking punches,
Sure.
you know?
You've also mentioned on the podcast that trauma and challenge and the struggle you go through in your life is effectively the gold that you're going to get, right? And we've
Yeah.
addressed that on many podcasts. We've talked, and this is for whoever's trying to sell a book or write an interesting screenplay or pilot. You have to go there. You have to be willing to explore the things you don't want to look at, the emotions you're avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
when you're procrastinating, it's because there's a feeling you don't want to feel. When you feel a really heightened emotion like anger or frustration, it's because there's another emotion you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
feel, and you're using
Mm-hmm.
that to hide those. And
Yeah.
the work of being a writer, as I've learned from you and from just life, is you have to go there.
Yeah. That's your
You
job.
have to explore.
If it makes you uncomfortable, don't become a writer then. Do something else.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know? And someone posted, and I haven't answered this. I was gonna make a video on this. So you're getting a sneak peek. But I guess I don't know if this is true or not, but this person said that David Lynch said, the great filmmaker, that he won't go into therapy because he's worried it'll hurt his art. I don't know if he ever said that or not, but that's what this person said, which strikes me as a load. It's like that's just an excuse not to go into therapy and to study yourself. Because if you don't understand yourself, how are you going to understand characters? How are you going to understand what those characters are
Yeah.
doing if you don't know what you do, what makes you tick, and all your. And I do think therapy and writing go hand in hand. And I know plenty of writers who are in therapy, and it's not embarrassing. It's just like, hey, yeah, this is what I'm doing to help me be either be a better person, stop hurting myself, or stop hurting others.
All therapists have their own therapist, by the way, because
Oh,
they
and
don't
they
need
have
them.
to. Yeah,
Yeah, because they
yeah,
have to sort through all that stuff they're dealing with. My
yeah.
brother is a family counselor, marriage and family counselor, graduated from
Uh-huh.
Johns Hopkins, and
Yeah.
yeah, he doesn't ever divulge anything specific, but the stuff he deals with on a daily basis, I have to imagine, is insane. And we had a
Hmm.
pretty insane childhood,
Yeah,
but
right.
he's doing that because he wants to help people sort through the things that we went through as kids. I'm
Hmm.
doing that through story,
Right.
effectively, and my writing took a turn when I realized, oh, I have to help. I have to put this. I have to be honest, and I have to serve this story because it's meaningful and it can affect people. That's why I liked TV when I was a kid. That's why I liked film. That's why I liked good books, because it allowed me to step out of whatever problem I was in and learn lessons about it through a metaphor of story, which is what storytelling is.
But also, you may think, well, it's just my life. It's not that interesting.
Yeah.
It's very easy to think my life is not interesting. It's just, I just, whatever, I had to go through it. But for other people on the outside who didn't have to go through it, it's extremely interesting. And that
Yeah.
applies to every single person. Like, whatever, you were in the Air Force, you did 3 years in the Air Force, and you did it to, pay through college or whatever. That's not interesting. For someone who's not in the Air Force, it's very interesting. Yeah, but I didn't fly jets. I just mopped floors. Okay, it's interesting. Tell me about that. Tell me what that's like to just mop floors when they're in an aircraft carrier. What's that like?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I don't
because you're dealing
know.
with your own stuff there.
You know,
Um,
everyone has interesting stuff to tell.
yeah. David Goggins put out a new book. You familiar with David Goggins? Former
No,
Navy SEAL. He wrote the book Can't Hurt Me. He's got another
oh,
one that just came out recently.
right.
Former Navy SEAL, former Air Force, tried out to be Air Force Special Forces, and he's talking the story about a janitor who was at West Point cleaning up the floors, and
Hmm.
one of the students finally put together this guy was a Medal of Honor hero. He in
Hmm.
World War II, he like charged a machine gun nest and threw a grenade in, and he's
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, that's a fascinating person." But it's also fascinating to be the guy at West Point discovering that the janitor has a Medal of Honor. It's the guy you want to be, right?
Yeah.
So that stood out to me from what you just said. Um, and I'm blanking on the next thing I was going to say. So I'm sure it'll
We'll
come
get
to me in a
back.
second.
But yeah, whatever life you're living, it doesn't. It's not interesting to you because you have to suffer through it every day. But it's interesting to the rest of us.
That's
So.
what it was. And I might have mentioned this on the podcast again. And guys, I apologize. We're over a year in now. So my brain works in a way where I remember certain details, very specific
Hmm.
details, but I apologize if this is repetitive. But I had an interesting experience where, like, in 1 week, I had like 3 friends from high school tell me that they live vicariously through me.
Through
And I was
you.
like, what? And I was like, in my world, it's like, well, I wake up 4:30, I do some writing, maybe go to the gym if I feel like it, eat whatever I'm going to eat, go be a PA, get coffee
Right.
for people, go
Right.
home, do something, go to bed. That's my life. But to
Right.
them, they're like, you're in Hollywood, like you're trying, like you're working with movie stars, you're doing all this stuff. And it's
Right.
just, they want to know every detail. And it's just
Right.
become monotonous to me because it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But it's interesting to them, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting story to tell. Even your point of view of even though you're not where you want to be, your perspective on Hollywood is interesting now because it's just a different viewpoint, you
Sure.
know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So to just kind of wrap it up, what I'm hearing you say in the conversation of how to sell movie rights to a book, how to sell a pilot, how to sell a screenplay,
Hmm.
just write something so good people can't deny it. And that will spread because people will want to share it with other people.
Yeah, right. They'll want to share it. And so, yeah. Yeah, and it's not the easy answer everyone wants to hear. Like they think, "Oh, is there a list I need to be on? Is there a competition I need to enter?" It's like, no, no, unfortunately, is there a pitch fest? No, there's not a pitch fest. No,
Yeah.
it's writing good.
None of that matters. And plenty of those don't go anywhere because the writing's not good still.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
There's no shortcuts,
Well,
unfortunately. No shortcuts.
awesome. Well, just kind of some reminders. Anything else on that before I move to kind of reminders?
That's it. Reminders, Phil.
Yeah. If you want to tell a good story, 2 recommendations. And again, these are my recommendations to you individually. Number one, go sign up for Michael's course at michaeljamin.com/course, where he goes into detail on storytelling. And I absolutely believe it carries over. I think, and we've talked about this as well, people really like this section on personal essays that you talk about
Yeah.
and minding your life for stories, which is a
Mm-hmm.
live Zoom that you did with students and kind of talked about this. And there's expanding on some of the sections in there. It'll help you learn how to look at your life and say, what is interesting in my life? And that will
Yeah.
help with your storytelling infinitely and exponentially. So go do that. If you're just wanting to get your toes wet in this and learn a little bit more, we talked in previous episodes about your free lesson, michaeljamin.com/free. It's that first lesson you talk about story and what is that definition. Watch list, michaeljamin.com/watch list, where you go through you send the top 3 videos or creative inspiration pieces for the week, just lines in your inbox. You can go watch them, think about some things, meditate on them throughout the week, and see how you can apply them in your life. And then Paper Orchestra, which you're not touring yet, but you will be soon at michaeljamin.com/upcoming, where you can go get on the list to let Michael know you want to be in this town. I had the pleasure of seeing this in December on my birthday, and I was deeply moved by one of the stories you told, and I've talked about that as well. But I still think about that story, and it has impacted the way I act with my children and my wife and every part of my life. And so, Michael, thank you again for that. But it's absolutely worth it. So if you're interested in Michael's writing or the upcoming tours, go sign up for that. Michael, anything you want to add to that?
That's it. Thank you all. Thank you all. And yeah, stay tuned. We have more guests coming up on the podcast and more information. Yeah.
Great.
That's it.
Michael, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Keep writing.
Keep writing.
This has been an episode of Screenwriters Need to Hear This with Michael Jamin and Phil Hudson. If you'd like to support this podcast, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing this podcast with someone who needs to hear today's subject. For free daily screenwriting tips, follow Michael on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Michael Jamin Writer. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Phil A. Hudson. This episode was produced by Phil Hudson and edited by Dallas Crane. Until next time, keep writing.